Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my Sunday live streams where we talk about photography, catch up with the community. See how everybody's doing. I hope you're doing well. Everything's going great here, fortunately this week. And I ah, had a crazy morning for some reason. It should have just been a nice casual photo walk, but uh, as always, I end up trying to help as many people as I can in the club with different stuff. But um, like this morning, I don't know if Shri is here. Shri was out with me this morning, and I I gave him a link to buy the 300 millimeter f4 off eBay, and I did some, a little bit of due diligence before recommending that particular auction item. And he brought the lens with him today, and he was saying it's not sharp, it's missing focus, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, okay, let me see your camera. He has the OM1 with 300 millimeter f4, and we were out shooting. There was this great egret, it's a white water bird, and and there was also a bald eagle sitting up in the tree. And I was like, okay, let me see what I can do. And David Crooks was there as well. So first thing I did is, I went into the menu settings and checked the autofocus, checked the shutter speed, because usually that's the problem is the shutter speed's too slow when you're working with super telephotos, because you had the 300 f4 along with the 1.4 teleconverter and all one. So same exact setup I have. And after I took a few pictures, I was like, yeah, something's not right. I'm not getting that magic I normally see. So I went into the settings again, made sure the release priority was off, and the sensitivities were set. So I set everything up like I normally do for birding. Took off the teleconverter, turned off the IBIS, tried again at fast shutter speeds, and it was still just this constant like meh feeling. Like it's just not as sharp. I'm seeing sort of like this double image kind of. It's just like motion blur. And turned out he had a UV filter on the front of that thing, and it was a Tiffin UV filter. Tiffin is generally a respected brand, but uh, this is why I personally never use UV filters. I've tried a few. I haven't bought the high end, stuff like B&W, but uh, I just never. I could always see a difference in the image quality. Soon as I took that filter off, everything was pure magic again. Um, So I thought maybe the IBIS system was off in the lens because, like I said, it looked like it was motion blur, and I thought maybe, uh, up until I took that filter off, I was starting to think, okay, because I turned the IBIS off, I was like, why is this image so soft? I'm at like 1/4000th of a second. This thing should be tack sharp. Oh, but thankfully we got that resolved. And then we were shooting some ducks and stuff, and I'm out there because I'm testing a new lens. It's a 40 millimeter from Viltrox for the Sony. I wasn't prepared to shoot, birds and things. And of course, every time I go out without my 300 millimeter, it's a freaking bald eagle, a great white egret, a freaking, somebody saw what you call it, a kingfisher. I'm like, come on, this place is not like known for these birds. I mean, not like it's very random. They're there, but the odds of you getting one when they're there is pretty slim. Owls. Anyhow, so I went through that. Then we went through this huge drama because we all go to breakfast. We went through this freaking huge drama uh, at IHOP. I mean, yeah, anywhere from 5 to 10 of us will go to IHOP after the photo walk, and we get all separate checks, which is perfectly fine. Never been a problem, no matter how many people came. And this day, we went to a different IHOP, and they refused to give us separate checks. So we're sitting there trying to splice up and figure out who owes what and how much, and just got unnecessarily complicated. We were there for like 2 hours. We should have been there for like 30 minutes max, maybe 45 if we jibber jabber. Oh my God. What a freaking nightmare at the IHOP. Uh, so I just sat down here and offloaded some images and I was like, oh crap, the stream is starting like in 5 minutes. So I didn't have any of my cameras set up because I was doing some testing in my studio. So I had to grab all the cameras, bring them in here, set them up, turn them on, and hopefully the audio and the video looks okay because it was really a scramble to get this stream started. So I'm sorry for starting late and just uh, you know yammering on about this, but I have to release a little bit because I'm still not. Normally, I like to come home and just wind down just for about 30 minutes before I start a stream. And I haven't had that 30 minutes to wind down. I'm just been kind of like, go, go, go. On top of that, I got like 3 hours of sleep. And I left my house at like, well, I didn't really leave till almost 7 o'clock. But I woke up at my normal, like, what was it, 4:06 a.m. I got up at my normal 4 a.m. time. And so let me check in who's here and we'll get right on to the topic. What I wanted to talk about today was there's a rumor, and I wanted to watch Robin's stream. Uh, Robin Wong did a stream this week, I think, about what's next for Michael Four Third, something like. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I did want to kind of elaborate or give you my perspective on what I think should be next. I mentioned in the thumbnail the OM10 or the Pen-F. So I want to get into that and maybe put a little bit of perspective on what OM Systems is doing, right? And so there's that. So where's my chat window? Robin is so good at doing chat. He can get to every single person. Robin Long. Oh, so I see X-Meta. Good to see you here. Let's see. He says the Pen-F and EP7 should merge into one camera line. Just add EVF to the EP7 and we are there. OM10 is logical successor to the M10 line. Yep. I think you're on the right train there. Right train. We're thinking very similar. I'm going to modify that slightly. I kind of hope for a fixed lens Michael Four Third street camera, but that's going against selling lenses in the nature photography theme. So probably not. Even if fixed lens cameras are an easy buck. Yeah, I wouldn't mind a fixed lens camera. I just don't think they're ready yet. But eventually they should be able to get there. Like I said, we'll talk about that though when we get in there. So Zoltan, always good to see Zoltan. Always with the emojis. Hi Rob, good afternoon, and hello everyone. My guess is that the next camera ought to be the OM10. Yeah, good guess. And Gordon, good to see you. Hi all. Looks like I'm early, suffering from gas today. I see the OM1 Mark One is $800 off today. I don't need it, but tempting. Plus new firmware to even improve AF now. So yeah, if you want to buy a brand new OM1 Mark One, warranty and all that, this is the time. I don't have my affiliate links down below. Doesn't matter. Uh, but this is the time to get the OM1. So get one if you want one. If you're shooting, especially if you're shooting with the EM1 Mark II or EM5 or EM10, the OM1 is going to be such a huge upgrade for you if you want to do sports action type photography, birds in flight, wildlife. You're also going to notice a huge improvement in the face detect. So if you like to do pictures of people and portraits, the face and eye detect is way better than any of the previous OM system cameras that have come to date, including the EM1 Mark III. Although, well, the EM1 Mark III is pretty close. I would say they're probably equal, but given the OM1's newer, hopefully it's a little better than the M1 Mark III. I haven't been able to test them side by side, but the face detect on both cameras are excellent. And then but yeah, so sports action photography. If you're just a landscape kind of person and you have high res shot mode on your current Olympus camera, you in your street shooter, probably I wouldn't bother with the OM1 Mark One. Uh, but if you like the computational features like the handheld high res shot, the in camera focus stacking, and maybe even for Astro the Starlight, uh, Star Star autofocus. I can't pronounce that right. Uh, these things are actually very, very helpful and practical tools that are built into the OM1 and the OM5 for that matter. But that's not on as good a deal. You might as well just a couple $100 more get the OM1 Mark One. Significant advantages in build quality, battery life, and the EVF. The EVF is amazing in the OM1. And also processing speed. It's going to be twice as fast as the OM5. On top of all the other, subject detect autofocus and stuff with the OM1. So I don't see any reason to buy the OM5 right now, and the OM1 Mark One is at this price level for brand new. It's definitely worth the extra 300. It's probably about 300 more still, even at this level. It's definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. So, okay. Uh, Zoltan said, that is a gorgeous lens Ralph got on the Pen-F. And oh, that's actually a Pen-F lens from the Pen-F film camera, the lens and thumbnail of this stream. And I adapted it using a Pen-F to micro four thirds adapter. And that's what it's called, Pen-F to micro four thirds. And I believe that's the 38 millimeter f 1.8 lens on there. I can't remember the aperture exactly, but it produces that very, very vintage look. Not so much, well, kind of swirly, not so much, but very bubbly bokeh. And not like mirror lens bubble, but definitely soap bubble type bokeh. And and the softness and lens flares and all the other defects that we find in cheap lenses or old vintage lenses. That is a fantastic lens to have on your modern digital camera. So you can get those pretty cheap. I think like 40, $50. At least I think that's all I paid for mine. I think I had to buy that lens separately. They also have a 25 millimeter, which I believe is about $100. Don't quote me on the prices, but they're not like outrageously expensive, and they are fabulous lenses for getting that vintage look. You combine that with one of the vintage art filters, or just shoot in black and white. Man, you're going to get really, really wonderful, wonderful images with that combination on any Micro Four Thirds camera, I should say. And hi, Bauman. Very good. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I'm doing well. Feeling good this morning. A little tired. Like I said, I didn't have a chance to wind down to kind of re-energize for the stream. So I'm still kind of. It's ironic. I'm still like at this peak, but I'm starting to go down. So if by the end of the stream I'm kind of talking like slurring my words, that's why, because I didn't get a chance to re-energize. Uh, Great Vanzini, good to see you. It says, which one will they make, or which one do I have gas for? Pen-F2, take my money now. Let me tell you, if a Pen-F2 came out right now, uh, I would definitely max out a credit card for that. And John Allen, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Very, very, very reliable. I see you all the time in the streams, and I really appreciate it. And Harold Graham, wow, the name is familiar because it's a very common combination, right? Harold and Graham, but then I don't recognize. Huh, maybe you have commented before, but I see you're a subscriber. I really appreciate that. I think it's this little red dot that's next to the what do you call that? The emoji? No, the avatar, whatever that. The H. There's a little red thing shows you're a subscriber. you're not subscribed to my channel, you know how to do, right? Subscribe if you enjoy these streams, the videos that I do. I'm gonna try and make some more videos now. I got a little bug for it the other day when I made that video reviewing the stuff that I bought. So definitely, and honestly, as a influencer, right? Uh, and I'm not ashamed to say that because I know you guys, not everyone, obviously, take everything I say with a grain of salt. But a lot of you like to hear my opinion and what I think about things. And it doesn't matter, just one guy with one opinion. But uh, no matter who you are, if you're not listening, you're not learning, right? There's always something to learn from everybody. So that's why, I never take anybody for granted. I never look down on anyone. And I put myself in their shoes. If they're a beginner and photographer, because it wasn't that long ago, I didn't even know what aperture was, honestly. So um, it's important to be uh, open to all different kinds of opinions and levels. And Osman, good to see you. And let's see. Gordon, I bet a Pen F too, but maybe an OM5 too early. I think it's a bit too early for that. And Zoltan, my goodness, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. I can tell you, it's every penny counts for me. Every dollar. And Shri, if you're here, thank you so much for breakfast this morning because that was such a fiasco with paying the bill. The way, God, that was a nightmare. Uh, I'm never going back to that IHOP again. And if there is an online thing I can fill out and just that's part of the problem, right? They got my blood pressure up at the IHOP, and I'm like the most relaxed, like nonchalant guy you will ever meet in person. But when if it was just me by myself, I would be fine, you know. But when they start messing with my friends or family, for that matter, right? Friends and family, I get a little bit upset, you know. Um, anyhow, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Roger, good to see you. Thanks for the heads up on what that thing is for my tripod. Uh, in my last review of the $17 tripod, I was like, what the heck is this thing? I have no idea. It's basically a monopod pouch. So for those of you that watched that video and don't know what it was either, it's a little pouch for the monopod so you can hang the monopod or I guess secure it somehow, maybe to your belt or your backpack. But it's a way to secure the monopod or carry the monopod uh, hands free is basically what it is. And Gordon says, not quite on topic, but did you notice any difference to your OM1 firmware update? Seems like it would improve the camera from focusing closest object more center of the lens. I have not noticed any difference because I haven't done the firmware update. The reason for that being is, I always like to wait a little bit uh, and let everyone else beta test the new firmware. uh, Number one, I always wait. So if you haven't updated your firmware yet, wait about a week or so and check the forums and see what people are saying about the firmware. Because you don't want to get in a situation like Fujifilm where the firmware jacked up the autofocus, which is so I heard. So I haven't even touched my Fujifilm firmware either at all for several revisions. That thing's way behind. I'm like on 1.5 or something, and it's up to 3 point something at this point. Whatever it is, I'm several versions behind because I haven't seen anybody convince me that they fixed the autofocus, right? And the autofocus on the Fujifilm right now that I have with the current firmware is perfectly fine. So I'm not, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, basically. But I'm trying to think of a way to do it before and after, right? And try and quantify any differences the best I can. It's very, very difficult to do, right? Because what they fixed was basically, well, I'm not fixed, but what they supposedly improved was when you select all points in the autofocus and you're using SAF or CAF, supposedly it has better tracking. And I assume that means the subject detect, even though that they didn't specifically say that. But that's what I'm going to test for is the subject detect. And to some extent, maybe the continuous autofocus with tracking with and without subject detect. And I have a couple ideas about how to do that that I can reproduce the results consistently so that I can say at least a little more definitively that there is a difference. Because honestly, you're going out shooting on firmware, say 1.5, and you go out and you shoot with 1.6, unless you really quantify or standardize the way that you tested before and after, how are you going to know? If you're just shooting birds and then you go out the next day and shoot birds again, the lighting is different, might be different kinds of birds, unless the difference is dramatic, how are you going to know there was any improvement at all? You can, I always hear this touchy feely kind of stuff like, yeah, it feels like it's better. Seems to be locking on better or tracking better. But, that's not going to cut it. If I'm going to put myself out there on YouTube and say this is better or not, I want to at least be able to share my methodology and the reasoning behind why I feel it's better or not better. And then you can take that data point, right, the data points that I use, and apply them to your own uh, methodologies, or say, let me try what Rob did. Even though I've upgraded 1.6, um, I can try this and see if it really is doing. I don't know. Just like I said, draw in as much as you can and come up with your own consensus of what you think has improved or not improved. I'm just going to give you my point of view, my perspective, my testing methodology, uh, and and it may or may not apply to your type of photography, right? Um, and Marco says, my guess is the OM5 Mark II with USB-C to comply with the EU regulations plus some firmware tweaks. I, someone else mentioned that before, and I was like, maybe not. But when you put it like that, it's like maybe that's all it is. But I do want to talk about that, and I'll get to it. I just want to catch up on the chat. The audio is clipping still. Oh, there. Sorry about that. I had the power plugged into the mic, so hopefully that's better. Okay, and I lost my place here. Linda Mark says an OM10, but it will be twice the size and triple the price of the M10 IV. I hope not. I hope not. Uh, and I seriously doubt it. The Pen-F 2 for sure, compete and surpass the Fuji X100 hype. They won't have to do much to beat the X100 because you can't buy an X100 anywhere. I mean, the X100 VI, and then all the other ones are ridiculously expensive and hard to find as well. Uh, Narco, good to see you. A little late. How you doing? I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. I appreciate that. And Roger says, I think an all-in-one zoom compact camera with the M10 features needs to be pocketable. Just a wild guess. That would be interesting. But they have the TG7, which has a lot of the M10 features except for shutter priority and manual mode, right? Uh, Firmware updates should be able to fix that, honestly, but they're not going to do that. If they're up to version 7 of the TG series and they haven't done that yet, they ain't going to do it. And the Tide Show, or the side towards screen. Hi. I'm going to have to give you an acronym here. Let's see. TSTS. TIS. No, that sounds stupid. I'll just call you by your screen name there. Sound is raspy. Yes. Hopefully that fixed it. And Brian says 1.7, no problems yet. Excellent. Good news. And Zoltan, oh my God, thank you so much. Didn't you just give me some already? You did. I really appreciate that. Um, and did a bar band gig last Friday, and I almost did not make it because I was sick, but I pushed through. I've never missed a job, and I booked. This was close. Missed a job. I booked, but this was. Oh, okay. I follow you now. Man, say that 3 times fast. Booked, but this was close. Uh, yeah, I don't think I've ever missed a job. I have gotten jobs that I've postponed because I could. They weren't like events on a set date, but I've never missed a job. I think people are looking for simple. There's a reason film is having a resurgence. Some Fujifilm cameras have become so popular. The tactile feedback of controlling via the dials. Yes, I agree. There is a certain attraction to a fine piece of equipment, right? Having all the different controls, having that tactile feedback from the camera, and physically controlling the the gear, right? Because and this is why I'm not a big fan of touch screens and uh, all this minimalist type um, gear. For example, and I'm not talking about just cameras, but like all of like the new. It's hard to find. I used to be into hi-fi. I really love you look at an old hi-fi system, an amp, a tuner, receiver with the amp built in, the Pioneers. Man, I love all of the dials and flips and levers and analog VU meters. I love all of that. And they could make a modern one just like that, and they might. I just haven't shopped one because I have a nice amp. I miss that, right? Any kind of fine piece of equipment. And cameras are no different, I think. I think people as human beings, we enjoy handling things and appreciate fine craftsmanship. That's why I like to wear mechanical watches like this one here. This is just a Seiko 5, nothing fancy pants, but it's a full mechanical watch, no batteries, no electronics. And there's a certain craftsmanship that goes into making a mechanical watch. And I've been wearing Seiko 5s uh, s- since my dad's, was wearing Seikos. So, eh, you know, anyhow, I uh, I really dragged on about that point, but I think it's a big deal. What Derek Pony was saying, an aperture ring on the lens. Yep, that saves space on the camera itself, right? And another Pen-F2, good. So I would like a digital 35 RC. Ah, that's cool. Actually, I have an RC back behind me, I think, or it's in the dry cabinet, but I think it's up on my shelf here. Uh, Let me just show you that one in case for people that don't know what it is. Let's see. Oh, huh. No, this is the 35 EC. So the RC, I assume, is the more manual rangefinder style. This is not a rangefinder. This is a fixed focus, not fixed, but preset focus, sort of like the new not pen, the new Pentax camera, where you just dial in the distance. It clicks in different distances. Um, so 3 feet, 4 feet, 7 feet, and so on. It says Seiko. Hey, speaking of Seiko watches, it says Seiko right here. That's cool. And this is a wonderful camera that was gifted to me by David Tellett. He's given me actually gosh, feels like a dozen or so cameras like this, really nice ones. He's so generous, and as many of you are, uh, I really appreciate this. And this is a fine piece of equipment, right? I mean, you can see. Look at the metal down here. This is the tripod socket here. This is where the batteries go. Even the battery door is freaking like a vault. There's the rewinder, and the back is a little bit thinner metal, but this has some weight to it. This is no joke, right? Okay. $2 from Zoltan. I appreciate that. That is so awesome. And Jimmy also leaked that he's testing a new MFT lens at the end of his video, and he was shooting the video on it. Not much bokeh in the vid, so maybe a small light option for vlogging. Interesting. Interesting. I need to catch up on a lot of videos. I've been watching stand-up comedy lately. I never watched Bill Barr or uh, Gabriel Iglesias or whatever his name. Some other comic travels a lot. I can't remember even what I watch now. It's been like my memory just doesn't hold up anymore. Like I almost forgot what we're going to talk about today. And Bauman says the EP7 is a fantastic cover. I love mine. Yes. Stylus 1S Mark II, 1-inch sensor, OM10 features. That would be great. I don't think they have the R and the resources, I should say, to do that, unfortunately. And by the way, hello from Toronto area, Canada. I hope everyone is doing great. Awesome. Thank you. I'm doing well. And looks like $1 from Zoltan. Oh my goodness. I feel I almost said a bad thing, but when you go to certain clubs and you tip people repeatedly when they're performing, usually ones, right? Street performers. Then again, my X100T gives me great joy. Yes. I didn't gel with the X100 series personally. I had one for a little while. And Jan says, car manufacturer Opel GM Automobile had the same goal to connect the engine together with the gearbox approximately 30 to 40 years. Imagine if photo percentages also had something similar. I I'm not a car history buff, so I don't get a feel for the reference here. Sorry. I don't understand the reference to that, or I can't make the connection between that and the photo industry. Uh, Jen is asking, why do batteries need to change measurement sizes from year to year? It's just a battery after all. Same with buttons. Why change location on them year by year? Uh, well, that's a good question. I mean, think about the battery that goes in the OM5. Fits in a lot of cameras in OM system because it has just enough capacity to power those cameras. OM5, EM5 Mark III, Mark II, Mark I, Stylus 1S, uh, most of the EP line, even going back to the DSLRs that Olympus used to make, the E420, E620. So I think Olympus has been good about keep using the same battery for a long time in as many cameras as they can. All the EM10s, of course, the Mark One, Mark Two, Mark Three, Mark Four, all use the same battery. So in some regards, they've done a good job maintaining using one battery. Now, the specs have changed in the battery, and they're always backwards compatible, but the specs have changed as the battery technology's improved, so they have a little bit more capacity. Uh, but yeah, and some batteries they want to improve because they're trying to uh, keep you from using third-party batteries, right? I know, like on my Sony camera, when I put in a third-party battery, it tells me I'm putting a third-party battery in, that I'm not going to, I'm risking damaging the camera and all of that when I use a third-party battery, which is true, right? I think the risk is pretty minimal, but it's a risk that I'm accepting when I put a third-party battery in. So some of the changes in battery are, more of a way to protect their own battery sales, and that's definitely as valid reason as any, right? Because yeah, you put in a cheap battery, you're not going to get the same performance, whether it's in battery life, uh, or you're taking a risk of them, bad chemistry, because they can't control what third parties do, right? So to to maintain the performance of the camera to the original specs, they force you to use their own batteries, basically, or they encourage it, right? And then there's also changes to the battery technology with respect to how they charge. When you added USB-C charging to the cameras, you also added data connectivity at a much different level, because now you have circuitry in the USB-C cable itself that can communicate with the camera and communicate with the charging device. So some of the charging, so to be able to charge things at a higher rate, uh, all the devices need to communicate with each other. The charging device, the cable, and the camera are all communicating with each other to deliver the optimal charge to the battery in the safest manner possible, because it can detect temperature through the cable. It can transmit the temperature to the charger. Uh, it can also you know transmit the resistance while it's charging, and what the current capacity is of the battery. Also, the age to some extent, if you want to get really sophisticated, so that at some point, some of the charging losses or efficiencies are transferred to the external charging device and not in the battery itself. Some of the the way it charges, I mean, it's a little beyond me how it exactly works, so don't quote me on any of this. Uh, but all that said, uh, as battery technology improves, it's very sophisticated. So to say that it's just a battery is, I think, an understatement. There's a lot more to a battery and the battery technology than we give them credit for in many cases, particularly since the advent of USB-C charging and fast charging, you know, charging things now at like 18, 20 watts in a camera, right? And then being able to run the camera and charge it at the same time sometimes requires a certain amount of charging capacity from the external charger, whatever that device is. And the cable, the charger, the battery, the camera all have to communicate and manage it's power management, right? In other words. So yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I think like even the TG series. So it wouldn't make sense to use like the battery from the OM5 in the TG7, for example, because it would make the camera bigger. So they have to have different sizes for different kinds of cameras, different capacities, because not only do they have size constraints, they also have user expectations, right? You don't want to buy an EM1 Mark II, Mark III, OM1 with a battery from the OM5, right? Or the EM5 Mark III. You're not going to get the performance from the camera. Uh, ugh. Anyway, God, man, I could just talk all day about batteries, right? I'm like such a battery. charger nut, honestly, because I have so many different cameras and so many different batteries and so many different devices that charge on different things. And it's only now getting to the point that USB-C is standardizing a lot of this so that we can get the maximum charging capability from the charger to the battery, um, so things can move along a little faster. But you have to manage the heat, and it gets crazy. So, Jan, hopefully that explains a little bit my perspective on why it's not just the battery after all. It's really there's a lot more to it, and that's why they change a lot. The monopod tripod bag, I think, used to clip on your belt so it can slip through the bag opening, so that stability tension between you and, oh, that's true, not for carrying it. Okay. See, what do I know? That makes a lot more sense. Adding stability through tension to the monopod. Okay. God, there's so much I don't know, honestly. And Darko says, I dropped the Fuji about 6 months ago. I was sick of problematic firmware updates. So you dropped, meaning you got rid of the Fuji. You didn't literally drop it in this context, which makes me sad, but I thought their Kaizen was lacking for at least 2 years. Yeah. I mean, I'm happy with my Fuji camera. If you watch my last video where I reviewed the cheap gear, I was using the Fujifilm with the Eterna profile. So I didn't do any grading. It's just straight out of camera video. And I was shooting in 6K mode and then cropping in and still maintaining, full HD uh, resolution. So I was able to crop in, just making sure. Some of you have my number, so you text me when there's a problem with the stream. So I just want to double check, but it looks like uh, something to do with eBay or something. It's a beautiful looking camera. Oh yeah, it's nice. It's nice. I need to get out. I shouldn't make excuses. I make excuses every single day, and don't get out and shoot. If I just went out every day, because part of the problem is I got so many cameras that I get paralyzed by what camera and lens should I take out. And it doesn't matter if I have one camera and a couple lenses. That would make it a lot easier. But I was paralyzed, you know, with just figuring out which lens to take when I only had a few lenses. And then the next thing is I get paralyzed about where to go, because I'm thinking, man, traffic's going to be like this at this hour, lighting's going to be bad at this hour, and man, I gotta do this thing at this time, so I can't go there because I need to be back in time to do that other thing. And then next thing you know, I'm watching stand-up comedy videos and say I'll try again tomorrow. And then it's the weekend, and then I go out on the weekend in the photo club, and today was just chaotic. Normally it's a great time hanging out with everybody, and I was having a great time when I got there. And but it was just until we went to frickin' IHOP that I just lost my mind, because somehow we started talking politics too, which I'm not a big fan of. Ugh. Okay, I gotta get my mind back into photography here. So, am I doing any nature photo walk vids in the future? Not in the near future. Hopefully before it gets cold again, like before winter, but not like next week or this. Probably, maybe the soonest would be the end of the month, if at all. But again, if I can get past this paralyzation, self paralyzing problems, then uh, I don't know. I got to get out of the house. Just grab any camera and go shoot. And I would have a great time, and I would come back and I'd have these wonderful images. I'm starting to get last year, I think it was last year, early last year, I really started to feel for my photography and the kind of images I enjoy creating. And okay, a lot of those old simple RFs fixed lens took brilliant pics. Yes, it does. I think I do have a roll from this camera somewhere. And I love stand-up. See anything you like, Sebastian. Maniscalco tip makes me laugh. A lot of Italian reference that's resonate with my family. Oh, okay. You ever feel like I feel like stand-up comedy is where I learn a lot of things about the world, about people. Because ultimately it's only funny when it's true, right? And they spew out a lot of things I didn't know. So it's like it's almost educational to watch stand-up comedy. And I find the EM1 Mark III and 75-300 lens for cheap enough, I'll be getting that combo, and you will be very happy for it. Okay, the chat's going faster than I can keep up, so let me divert back to my thoughts, and you guys can start putting in your thoughts while I'm talking about my thoughts on what I think should be next for OM systems. I don't know what's going to be next. I'm just telling you what I think should be next. If they're going to release something this year, we'll think about that. But if we want to think about more long term, what kind of cameras do we want to see? So, in the spirit of the thumbnail of this video, in terms of what is coming next, like in the fall, potentially, I'm leaning OM10, right? A successor to the EM10 Mark IV. And I expect it'll be essentially the OM5 without weather sealing. That's what they need to do. So now you have two cameras, OM5, weather sealed, OM10, no weather sealing, and a USB-C port. So the OM10 should have phase detect, uh, and if they can put the new menu and overlay that on top of the previous generation circuits, whatever chipset, the TruePic something, whatever chipset they're using, that would be great. I don't expect that because they should have done that on the OM5. But if they can make an OM5 without weather sealing, right? Uh, that's what the OM10 is going to be. That's what I think it's going to be. Because they don't need to separate their products that much, right? But they do need to have significant differences in prices. I mean, we can't like do OM10 for 1,000 and OM5 for 1,200. That $200 gap, nobody's going to buy the OM5. But uh, and you might argue that no one's going to buy the OM5 if they make the OM10 basically an OM5 without weather sealing. But apparently, weather sealing is a huge, huge deal. But let me continue why I think they should do the OM10 and basically make it the OM5 without weather sealing. Because they need to upgrade the OM5 series. The OM5 series needs to be upgraded to a metal body, like the Fujifilm X-T50, like the original EM5 Mark II. They need to go back to a metal body to give it that semi-professional feel, durability, and potentially use. I mean, if you're a jobber and you're doing photo jobs, it would make an excellent backup camera. It does now, even if it's plastic, but making it metal will really make people feel like they're buying a quality camera. Okay. Hopefully, at this point, people are past sensor size. I really hope so. I don't know if that's the case or not, but I am I'm just so I feel so strongly about this that they need to go back to a metal body and USB-C and put the OM1 into the OM5 Mark II. Cram it in there. They're going to have to cripple it a little bit because of the size, right? It may not have the same exact IBIS system. It may not be able to handle the same, uh, the heat management's going to be different, and the battery life, because it's going to be using a lesser power battery. So there's going to be some compromises to make it smaller uh, in the performance and features of the camera. Some of it might be deliberate just through firmware, but I honestly I think there will be some physical limitations to the camera in the OM5 Mark II to keep it from being truly an OM1. Uh, like the battery. Battery's a big one, right? They need to make the OM5 Mark II basically the OM1. New menu systems, USB-C charging, metal body, grip option. They need to have a grip option. Then the OM5 Mark II, and they can charge like $500 less than the OM1. People will pay a little bit more. The OM10 needs to be the current OM5, just without weather sealing. If they can get a new menu system in it, that would be nice. If not, it's okay, but it needs to be the OM5 with USB-C and no weather sealing. Without the weather sealing, they should be able to keep the price down to well under $1,000. Make it $699. Okay, because that camera is going to have to compete with the Canon R50, which is like a $700 camera. It's going to have to compete against the Sony like A6400 or A6600, or even now they got the A6700. It's not going to compete with that, but it'll compete with, say, a Canon R50 and a Sony A6400. And it should be able to compete with a Fuji X-T50 or the XS20. Hopefully, not on the video side. Olympus can't compete on video with anyone, honestly, at this point. Everybody does video better than on paper, at least. In practice, the video from the OM system cameras are fine for most people and for enthusiasts, right? If you need pro level type video work, you're not going to buy an OM system camera. You're going to buy Panasonic, Lumix, or you're going to buy maybe Fuji even, or just about any other camera system does video better if you need higher end video. So that's my thoughts, right? OM10 now becomes the OM. It takes everything the OM5 is, but without weather sealing and a USB-C port. That's all they need to do. Sell it for $700. Add a lens, couple lenses. You sell the kit for $1,000. The OM5 Mark II needs to be the OM1 in a smaller, slightly crippled or compromised. I don't think crippled is the right word. I'd say compromised. Compromises are made to make the body smaller, but it needs to be the OM1 with the new menu system, USB-C, and maybe a couple other tricks up its bag. Some forward thinking, right? Things that they might be putting in the OM1 Mark III, like just have it leapfrog the OM1 Mark II in something, you know. Maybe I don't know. I can't even think of what they could do. The cameras do so much already. Handheld live comp. Okay, something like that. I'm just spitballing here. But if they have something in the camera in the OM5 Mark II that no other camera in Olympus has at this point, OM systems, excuse me, that will give people hope that they're working on something and developing something for the future, right? When they buy the OM5 Mark II, or even if you don't buy the OM5 Mark II, you see it come out and you're like, oh, wow, it has this new feature. This is awesome. So that means they're probably developing this feature for cameras in the future, right? But they were ready to put this one particular thing in right now, and they may have more stuff down the line in addition to that. Now, if you look at the Olympus history, what I'm saying is nothing new, right? Uh, the EM5 Mark II came out, and then after that, the EM10 Mark II came out. What's the real difference between those two cameras? Primarily the weather sealing. They're both metal bodies, both 16 megapixel, both have everything, but the M10 is a little bit crippled. No mic jack, no high res, no oh, it does have focus bracketing. I don't think it has focus stacking. But essentially it's the same camera, but no weather sealing. They need to have a mic jack on the OM10 also. They will get knocked for it, even though most of us will never use the frickin' mic jack on a camera ever. They're gonna get knocked on it by influencers, YouTubers on on YouTube, right? For not having a frickin' mic jack. Uh, that has never been a deal breaker for me for my photography. It's a deal breaker, of course, as a content creator. But for my photography stuff, what do I care if it has a mic jack or not? Or even video for that matter, really. Anything more than just 1080p. But uh, I'm not saying anything new here. This is something that Olympus did in the past, right? And then when the EM5 Mark III came out, what was it? It was basically the EM1 Mark II. And now that the OM5 is out, it's basically the EM1 Mark III with the said compromises. So I'm not saying anything new here. But I just wanted to emphasize how strongly I feel about this. If they do that, if they can continue doing that, they can release cameras, I think, at a faster clip, right? So that they're back to releasing 3, 4 cameras a year. And cameras don't have to be that different from each other. You can release 3 cameras the same year that are virtually identical, except this one has a mic jack and weather sealing. This one has longer battery life and better IBIS and better video specs. And then this one has no weather sealing. This one has no IBIS. This one has no mic jack. Or everything's got to have a mic jack. But you see what I'm saying is they can release 3 virtually identical cameras at 3 different price points in the same year with minimal effort on the R&D side because it's all done. The R&D is all done. It's just a matter of cutting things off. And this is exactly what Sony does, right? Sony released the A6100, the A6400, the A6600, 3 cameras the same year. APS-C, virtually identical. Same sensor, same processor, same memory card, right? Same body, basically. But what were the differences? The A6100 had no IBIS. It had a smaller EVF, like lower resolution EVF. Essentially, that's it. And they crippled the firmware a little bit on the ISO. It doesn't have a max ISO of 100,000. It only goes to 50,000. But if you look at every other spec on that camera, it's identical when you go to the A6400. What does the A6400 bring? Well, the only difference is really it has a better EVF. Okay, that's about it. It has a better EVF, but let's call it the A6400. And then when you go to the A6600, what did they do over that? Oh, well, what did they do? They added IBIS, essentially. Nothing else. So 3 cameras virtually identical at 3 different price points. So when a customer walks into that store and they have a certain budget, they can get something in their budget. If they have a smaller budget, they get the smaller camera, the lesser expensive one. If they want to get a little bit extra and it's within their budget, because I don't want to say if they can afford it. People can afford, a multi-billionaire can afford anything, but they might only budget so much for a particular expense, right? Because for most of us, this is what do you call disposable income type stuff, right? That we buy. We use our disposable income. We don't use It's not a necessity, right? It's a recreational activity. So, and then you got the enthusiast that says, man, I want everything this company has to offer in this style of camera. And OM systems can do the same thing, and that will generate, but with a twist, right? With a twist of adding things into the highest one that we're going to see coming in future cameras, right? Uh, and that will create some buzz or some excitement, I think, for the camera that's coming out next. Because we'll say the next camera is going to have this and more, right? And it's going to do it better and faster. Like high-res shot mode came out, I think, in the EM1 Mark II. EM1 Mark III, handheld high-res shot, right? Handheld versus EM1 Mark II was tripod only. And then OM1, handheld high-res shot mode, but twice the processing speed. So they're much, much faster and better algorithm, which supposedly is, they've improved that even more in the current firmware. By better algorithm, meaning less artifacts and better smoothing and reduction of motion, like motion artifacts, basically. Just keep making improvements in every iteration best you can. And that's what I feel about the one, and I think that will be that should be the next camera. All right, what if that's not the next camera? What if they come out with a Pen-F Mark II? It's going to be a niche camera, and it might be a tough sell because it's not going to be cheap. Pen-F Mark II, it's got to be weather sealed, right? Because we're talking X100 series competition, right? It's got to be weather sealed. It's got to have the latest autofocus, the latest processor, and the processor can be either the one in the OM1, which I would be completely fine with, or the one maybe that they can use from, like Panasonic uses the 25 megapixel sensor. I think that would be a better choice for a Pen-F. Give it the 25 megapixel sensor that has the phase detect, subject detect, uh, and then give it the body, the weather sealed body, and it's okay. Make it a little bigger, just a little. Well, let me rephrase that. And I hate to say this, but they need, well, what I was going to say is they need a bigger battery. But let's not go there because we just talked about batteries, and ultimately it would be kind of stupid to put a bigger battery in there to make and it would make the camera bigger. I don't want to make the camera any bigger. It's really the perfect size as it is. But weather sealed, USB-C port, mic jack, uh, and 25 megapixel phase detect, or the 20 megapixel. But I think 25 would be more appropriate in that camera. If they can't do it for whatever technical reason,
Someone was detected at your course.
um, I'm okay with the 20. It's a street camera. We're not talking about high-end professional work. And then, some updates to the design, right? I love the design of the current Pen-F. I really don't have any issues with it. If it comes out exactly the same, I'm okay with that to an extent. But make some changes. Something like that front dial. That got the most criticism. Uh, let's say it's like 80% of the people hate and criticize that thing. 20% love it. I like it. I'm kind of I My only complaint about that front dial is they should have made it reprogrammable so that the user can decide what that front dial does. So if I want to change shutter modes from continuous to single or back and forth, or if I want to change focusing modes quickly with just a turn of a dial, that would be nice to be able to make that front dial reprogrammable. Then I'm fine with it. Uh, because it was a little bit too targeted to the JPEG shooter, the Pen-F. Just too targeted. There's so many wonderful controls in that. If you're a JPEG shooter, highlight, shadow, vignetting, all of the different art filters, the color wheel, saturation of individual colors. Uh, you know, there was a lot of things that were configurable in that for the JPEG shooter. The ability to adjust the strength of the individual uh, color filters for the black and white simulations. These things are all very, very JPEG centric. And limiting that front dial to just JPEG shooters, basically, I think definitely a big handicap. Because when I first got the camera, yeah, I loved playing with it like that, adjusting the saturation on individual colors in the color wheel, playing with the different strengths of the color filters for the black and white. The film grain simulation was really awesome. It was pretty authentic looking. Apparently, it was based on an actual film grain. Ultimately, it's not the same. Grain in camera is never looks the same as grain on film, grain in digital. But anyhow, yeah. So Pen-F 2, weather sealed, upgraded autofocus and sensor, and mic jack, USB-C, and you're done. You're done. Okay. So what was great about the Pen-F was, of course, all of the tactile controls, the buttons, the dials, the design. I love the design of it. I didn't find it polarizing at all. Why? I haven't found anybody that doesn't like the look of that camera. There might be some people out there, but I haven't met them. Uh, the design was beautiful, and ultimately it was the build quality. Again, going back to my uh, thoughts on holding a fine piece of engineering, a quality piece of equipment or gear, right? The Pen-F needs to be that. Right? I don't think the Fujifilm X100 quite meets that standard. It's a fine camera. Like I said, I had one. I had the X100F, actually. But it doesn't quite meet that standard that the Pen-F is. I think the Pen-F is better built camera than the X100F that I had. So that's where the Pen-F 2 needs to be. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to go into the chat. Uh, those are my thoughts on those two cameras. And then we'll come back and maybe talk a little bit long term what they might want to do, right? What I think they should do. So I left off about here. And Jan, sorry, my bad. Your English is not bad at all. It's much better than I guess you're German. I'm guessing. I don't know any German except Du hast, which by itself doesn't mean anything, right? You have to know you have to finish the sentence to to actually give meaning to the word du hast, right? And then Eric says, I found I can do macro with the 4518 yesterday. It's just combining about 8 to 9 80 megapixel high-res shots on a small object. No macro tubes needed. I hope OM makes a 6mm macro lens with the release. A 6mm macro? I don't know how you can do 6mm and do macro. It'd just be too wide. But how you doing, Eric? Good to see you. And Rob, if you want to try something very different, I suggest you convert to one of your cameras to infrared. My guess is you will love it. I do have one, actually. My E420 is full converted. Uh, I haven't taken it out hardly at all, though. It was actually gifted to me by one of my viewers a few years ago, and I never gave them proper credit. I may have at the time, but not recently. Uh, and I did take a few pictures with it about a week ago, and I wasn't inspired. And that's because I don't know what I'm doing. But I need to get out there before all the leaves are gone. Then what's the point of infrared if you don't have like leafy greens and stuff, right? Uh, I got wasabi battery for my Z5. I cannot verify exactly, but the wasabi battery set seemed to last longer on my shoots, but I am sure the life of the wasabi batteries will be less. Yeah, it will be. I mean, I've had wasabi batteries in the past, and the ones that I've had never lasted as long. They swell up just like every other generic battery. I don't think there's anything particularly special about the Wasabi brand, other than they were able to market their batteries better than, say, other manufacturers. So, uh, with this little bit of experience I have with Wasabi, uh, I'm not I'm not impressed with them over any other generic battery I've ever bought, whether it's like K-Star and the various other brands. I do like this one battery. I'll show you. This is Power Extra, okay? Power Extra. This is for my EM5 Mark III. This doesn't have anywhere near the capacity. This only charges, let's say it's supposed to be 1200. This charges about 1000. This only holds about 80% of the charge, and then once the charge gets near its minimum level, the camera just shuts off. There's very, very little warning, which is typical of generic batteries, right? You might get some warning for a few minutes, and then your camera dies. Versus an original battery, you might be able to go another 100 shots. When you get that battery warning on an original battery, you could probably go another 100 shots. But with something like this, you get the battery warning, it's time to change. You've only got a few shots left, right? Anyhow, they claim 2000 milliamps. It's like half that, okay, in real life. Because the actual battery, I think the OEM battery is rated, what, 1200? But anyway, this is only about 80%. But what I like about this battery, as far as generic goes, is that it's actually a little bit thinner, a little bit thinner than the OEM battery. And the reason I like that is because every generic battery tends to swell after a couple of years, like 1 or 2 years, depending how often you charge and recharge it. These all swell. I've not had a generic battery not swell on me. But once these start to swell a little bit, because they made this just a little bit thinner, it's not going to be a problem, right? To get the battery out or to pull it out of the camera. Because, man, if you get a battery swollen inside a camera and you can't pull that, I said a bad word, you can't pull it out of the camera, uh, yeah, it's not good. It's not a good thing. So that's why I like this. And this is the only, if I buy batteries again, or generic batteries again. I mean, I have 3 or 4 OEM batteries that I use most of the time. These are just kind of like backups. Then it's going to be this particular brand for that reason, not because it has any longer capacity or any kind of advantage over other generic batteries, other than it's just a little bit thinner, physically thinner battery. Okay. Uh, so I send Rob a few dollars for coffee and perhaps a donut because tomorrow's a holiday and he has a fellow. Oh, awesome. I appreciate that. I really do. You have no idea. Um, and every little bit counts. I mean, every dollar I get, I put probably 90% of it back into photography, and then I try to share with you, uh, whatever it is I'm doing, in terms of photography, I try to share with you. And different kit every time, but it's great fun. Don't ever talk politics. Yeah, it's just trouble, right? And Darko says, I've not been out just for a photo walk for 3 weeks and just went out today alone and got some awesome train shot, which I will edit later. Yeah, isn't that awesome? It's so awesome to go out and shoot. I just love going out and doing photography. But then I get these, I get into these, I just get paralyzed for no good reason. And Barry, good to see you. Uh, and RPM says, "Hello, Rob. You described yourself as an influence. No, I call you inspirational." Wow, that's another way to put it. We're going to call RPM is the source of YouTube today. No, I call you inspiration. I'm seeing the world as a photographer once again, and I'm looking at film photography once again too. All the best. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like to inspire people. I hope I do to get out there and shoot and enjoy photography. Because yeah, I talk about gear a lot. I love gear, but I also love photography. The two are only very loosely related, right? You have to have gear to do photography, but each one is really their own subject, right? They're different subjects altogether. We can talk about gear, and never talk about photography, and vice versa. We can talk about photography and never talk about gear. But the irony is, you can't do one without the other. Isn't that weird? Uh, how many other hobbies can that is that the case, right? Maybe any kind of art or craft, I guess. So, okay. OM10, weather sealed with bird eye AF. I think that's an OM5 Mark II. I don't think they can do that because OM10 needs to be budget friendly, right? Or if not budget friendly, at least cost less than the OM5. They need to have three levels minimum, right? Entry level, mid level, flagship minimum. Um, and they don't have to come out all at once, right? But they when you look at other manufacturers, and I'm using Sony as an example, but they're really not releasing cameras that often with respect to being different, right? They're basically releasing this. If they release three cameras or five cameras in 1 year, uh, three of them will be exactly the same, less whatever, some minor differences. The other two or three are going to be different lines of cameras, but a newer version, right? Take like the RX 107. When did that come out? 2018? I don't know. But nothing for years, right? We haven't seen a new RX 108. But what did they do? They released the ZV1, right? Is it? Yeah, the ZV1, 1-inch sensor. It's basically an RX 107, the ZV1. But all they did was take the viewfinder off and gave it an articulating screen. Sure, there's some other technical upgrades. It's been years, but ultimately it's the same camera. Uh, the A series, the 6100 to 6700, 6600, those three cameras, 66, 65, 64, 61, 60, these are all the same camera, just they're just divvied up a little bit in terms of feature set, but there's nothing really that different internally about them. Uh, look at the Canon lineup. Uh, I think the Canon R50, Canon R7, no, Canon R50, Canon R10 are basically the same camera. Um, yeah, they're basically the same. Then the R7, they add IBIS, but that has a different sensor too. So it's not fair to say that that's not a great example. But yeah, they have the R50, R10. I think those are essentially the same. The R8 and the R6 Mark II, basically the same camera, but the R6 Mark II has IBIS and a bigger battery, right? But same sensor, same processor, same autofocus. Everything's the same otherwise, right? But it's just a little bit, it's just a little bit less on the R8, but it costs like half as much. ultimately. So that's all they need to do in Olympus is why, yeah, and that's what they have been doing in the past. Well, in the past, uh, they were cannibalizing the previous generation flagship and putting it into their mid grade. So it's kind of like a hand me down, right? Big brother gives the little brother, big sister gives the little sister. Just hand me down the stuff. But that's okay. But they need to come out. They need to come out more often, right? So that or cascade the releases so that it feels like we're getting a new camera or two cameras every year, right? And then as they build their profit margins and are willing to take on more risk, they can start releasing more interesting cameras other than their bread and butter. Because as it is now, they're only releasing what falls exactly in line with their vision of sports, action, wildlife, adventure, that kind of thing, right? So they are laser focused right now on that and trying to make that profitable. But they need to, yeah, they need to get to a point, and this is what I mean by in the future, they need to get to a point to where they can start taking a little bit of risk. Let's try a fixed lens camera, right? Stylus 1S, but with the OM5 built into it, right? Because that's what is the OMS, the Stylus 1S when it came out, it was basically an EM5 Mark One, right? Uh, but just with a fixed lens, an awesome lens. It's like a 24 to 200 or 300. It was a 24 to 300 f2.8 fixed, you know, fixed aperture, pretty amazing lens and tack sharp, man. But anyhow, they need to start taking some risks and introducing cameras that they know people will buy, not necessarily in the quantity that they need them to, but people will buy and they start generating a little buzz, right? And people say, I don't really want a Stylus 1S, but I would love that EM5 because people are starting to hear about the OM system brand, and anyhow, 26 megapixel MFT. Yep. Just like the Lumix. Rob, if it's essentially the OM5 but still in a smaller, lighter box, I'm all for it. Yeah, I think so, right? OM10, no weather. Just take the weather sealing off the OM5. They can leave the OM10 as a plastic body, right? All of the entry-level cameras like the R8, the R50, R100, all the Canon, all Sony is kind of a mix, plastic and metal, mostly metal. Fuji is mostly metal. Uh, so it just needs to be mostly metal on the OM5, but the OM10 can be all polycarbonate. That's fine. Call it polycarbonate. Uh, sounds like it's space age, like it's more advanced. It's not just plastic, but it's polycarbonate, which the two terms are interchangeable, right? Um, another vote for the OM10. I agree. I feel pretty strongly about it. I think they need to look at the competition. Canon has less than $1,000 APS-C, subject to AF. Any camera they come out with will need some level of subject. I know. So that would mean putting in the OM1 technology into an OM10. I don't know if we'll get that this year. I think it's better for them to release an OM10 that has OM5 technology than to release nothing at all. But then again, if they release crap,
Detected at your porch.
if they release something and everybody thinks it's crap, that might be a mistake too, right? So maybe going full on, okay, here we have subject detect, we have basically the OM5 chipset, we have the OM5 sensor. I'm sorry, we have the OM1 chipset and sensor. We have basically the OM1 and an OM10 body, plastic body, smaller, lighter, and then compromised because of size all of these various features, maybe through because of the physical dimensions, they can't offer the same features in the OM1 as the OM1, I should say, or through firmware and just say, okay, disable, A, B, C, and D, and now you have the OM10. I would be fine with that. I would love that. That may be better than doing what I was saying earlier. So, tough call. Yes, Rob, PDF and a new menu. So yeah, we'd have to go full on OM1 in an OM10 body, but compromises due to size and maybe a few cripple hammer type stuff, as Casey likes to say. And thank you, the great Vanzini. I appreciate that. I would think there would be a leak pre-production. Well, you would hope. I just don't know if OM system has it just doesn't have the interest like, say, the other manufacturers do in terms of market share that people will be really trying to, it's something that OM systems and a lot of companies for that matter have not adopted by leaking, intentionally leaking images, specs, yada yada to the general public or rumor sites. Just leak it. They intentionally leak things, right? I don't think OM System has adopted that strategy, right? They're very, very tight-lipped. So is Panasonic. I don't think anything got leaked. I don't know. I don't pay attention that closely to the rumors and what they're talking about to the degree that a lot of people do. They know every freaking detail of where the rumor came from, what the source was, how reliable. That's just the world they live in, right? They live for that, and they're freaking bunch of keyboard jockeys too. But that's okay. That's okay. We all have to enjoy life in different ways. If you enjoy that kind of stuff, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't interest me quite as much to deep dive into rumors and try and hang on every single letter. But uh, I don't think we'll get anything unless OM Systems themselves specifically leaks it. OM10 for sure. My thoughts. Yep. GG Wildlife and video on my GH5 Mark II is exceptional. Got it. Yes. And OM10 direct competitors are the Fuji X-T30 Mark II. I would think it's the X-T50 now. Now that the X-T50 is out, the ZFC and cameras you mentioned from Canon, Sony. Only advantage over Fuji Nikon is the IBIS. Uh, I think it has more advantages. The high-res shot mode, well, that's the main one. The high-res shot modes, if those other cameras have it, the workflow is unacceptable. The only two companies, OM Systems and Panasonic, they do high-res shot mode. The execution is flawless, which is true for many of the features in OM Systems. Is the execution of the computational features are second to none. I mean, they're just so easy. It seems hard because they're new and nobody else for a while had those features. But when the other companies tried to mimic it, like Sony, Fuji with the high-res shot thing, holy crap, the workflow sucks so bad. Anyway, uh but yeah, what does Fuji have? Fuji has the XS20, don't they? I would think it would compete near that level. These cameras, the XT series, like the 30 and the 50 and the ZFC, I feel are more like OM5 competition, right? And then the lower end cameras from Fuji, they don't make anything lower end anymore. I don't think. But they used to have like an XT100, XT200, I think. I don't think they were called that exactly. Maybe they were. They used to have lower end cameras below the XT30 line that had like plastic bodies, and uh, they came out with a very cheap, the XC series of lenses, very budget orientated lenses. That would be more OM10 arena, in my opinion. These cameras, I feel like, are closer to OM5. That said, if they price, because those cameras you're talking about are under $1,000, right? The OM10 needs to be $700. Then that'll keep it out of that league. And David Black, hi from Southern Indiana. OMDS needs to have a mid-level camera. No money to be made with sub $800 cameras. Market share, but no profits. Yes, I think that's the general consensus. Is they don't make money on these low-end cameras. The whole idea of the low-end camera, I believe, is to get people into the system. And when you look at the best sellers on Amazon, let me pull this up. This is not the right screen. This is my full screen. Okay. Close enough. Let's look at this. Best sellers in digital cameras on Amazon right now. I actually bought these cameras. These two right here. I didn't get pink. I got a gray one. And I paid a little bit less than that for these. I think I paid like 30 and 20. Anyway, these are cool little cameras. Total crap in terms of image quality. But what's the first actual camera that comes up? A T7, right? And this says over 1,000 bought in the past month. So they do it in steps of 1,000. So that's between 1,000 and 2,000 cameras. The T7, 2 lens kit. And then we go down, and then the single lens kit is what are we at? We're still at 1,000 plus. And then we have to go down, down, down. The next one is an R100. Where are we at? We're at 1,000 plus. Then we go down, and then this I cannot believe for the life of me. This Canon F360 is even on here. I can't figure this out. How is this possible? This piece of crap camera for $400 when you can buy this R100 for the same price. People would buy that camera. Look at this camera. Oh, not this one. Where are we at? Then we have to go to the ZV-1F. And then down here is the R6 Mark II, and then another piece of crap camera. Go to the next page. R50, another T7, but this is a much bigger kit, right? Bunch of accessories included. R100 again. Finally, an Olympus or OM system camera, TG7. ZVE10. What is the ZVE10? It's basically an A6600 without an EVF. Same freaking identical camera as the A66 or A6700, but just no viewfinder, right? And then we go down, then the Sony A6.
Detected at your porch.
I'm sorry about the my security camera interruptions. I forget to turn it off sometimes. Uh, we go down. RX 100 Mark II, 7, Mark 7. Another, basically a T100. That's a real piece of crap camera. I mean, for this day and age, for that money, when you can get the R100, which is way better. And then last but not least, the first full frame well, the second one, the Canon R8.
The camera isn't responding.
So I'm trying to think, what was my frickin' point to all that? Uh, I can't even remember why I brought that up. But you see what I'm saying is like, oh yeah, it was about entry level cameras, making no money on entry level cameras. Certainly, those piece of crap compacts that were selling between $40 and $100, they're making money on those because I bought one, I opened it up, and it's like probably a $10 part in there max. $10 in parts altogether, if that. Uh, but yeah, do they make money on those? It's hard to see how. It's hard to see how when they're going between $400 and $800 for an interchangeable lens camera. It's hard to see how they're making money on that, but it's getting them in the system. And if they like the system, like if you buy a Canon R50, the Canon R100, you might buy it and not like it. I could see that happening but then you only paid like $300 for it. But the Canon R50, you're paying like $600 or $700 minimum with the lens closer to 800. You're probably going to like that camera, and you're probably going to want to upgrade later. And that's what I'm saying. If people buy an OM10 with OM1 type features in it, subject detect, phase detect, USB-C, but no weather sealing plastic body. But they're going to love the camera and what it can do. They'll probably want to stay in the system and upgrade to, say, the OM1 or OM5, whatever. So entry level camera doesn't have necessarily like it doesn't do anything to the bottom line for that camera, but it does do down the line. Hopefully, there's some customer loyalty, and they need to work that angle a little bit more, right? If you own an OM System Olympus camera and you want to trade it in, give an extra $500 on the trade, right? If I have a Canon camera and I trade it in, you don't get that extra 500. But if you have an OM System camera and you trade it in, and they're going to give you another $500, I'm just throwing a number out there. You better believe that I'm not trading my OM System camera for anything but another OM System camera because of that $500. Uh, and then they're making money on the lenses, right? Probably not that much uh, overall. I don't really know, but they should be making money, overall. They need to figure out the numbers so that they do make money in the long run. But the entry level cameras, if it's true that they don't really make any money on it, they need to figure out how long term play the long game to get to make to build customer loyalty so that they can charge more, make more money. Hi from Southern. Yeah, okay. So that's why I went into the Amazon page and all of that. Don't you feel there's a plateau that M43 can go? Sensors depend on Sony wanting to push the envelope for Micro Four Thirds, not OM. From here on out, each new camera will have slight upgrades. Until they come up with a whole new technology, yeah, it's pretty much that's it. Regardless of camera brand, Sony has their global shutter, which is very interesting. Uh, And people are talking that's where everything's going to go eventually is with a global shutter. So we haven't really reached the plateau. There's a global shutter out there, and they could come out with a micro four thirds global shutter, just as easy as they did full frame, right? But yeah, there's definitely a plateau. I mean, I mean, uh, let me show you this page. I mean, this has been done to death. I know. Uh, but yeah, you know, this is the Pentax K10D, Panasonic Lumix LX5. So this is an APS-C sensor. Over here we have this is on my Flickr page if you want to go there. This is a little tiny 1/1.7 compact sensor camera, right? I mean, other than depth of field, how much difference is there really in the image quality? Look at the detail I'm getting out of a 10 megapixel compact sensor camera versus the detail on an APS-C sensor. The APS-C sensor is probably at least 4 or 5 times the size of the LX5, right? And then that was how many years ago? Here's the LX100 versus the LX5. So there's definitely, again, the depth of field difference. But now we're talking a 10 megapixel tiny sensor camera versus a 17 megapixel 4/3 sensor. It's not that much difference. And these cameras are probably 10 years apart, whatever that number is. What was this? This was taken, look at this. This is the Olympus E500 with, okay, that's a decent lens, the 2.8 to 3.5, but I mean, so my point here is we have plateaued a long time ago in terms of image quality from our sensors. Yeah, high ISO performance is better. There's certainly been improvements over the last 10, 15 years. Okay, I'm not denying that. But for general photography, I'm not seeing really, I'm not like seeing really a ton of difference from 2010 to 2024. Okay, for simple static shots like that. Of course, sports action, speed, all of that is much better now. So the capabilities of the cameras have certainly improved. But I think your point was about the sensors have plateaued. When we're talking about just the sensor alone, I feel like we plateaued a long freaking time ago on all the cameras. And that's why I mentioned the global shutter. That's really the only significantly new technology being used in the consumer market. Uh, let's see. And sensors depend on Sony wanting to push the envelope for Micro Four Thirds. Well, Sony will push the envelope if there's demand from the companies, right? So if OM Systems says, here's a bunch of money, can you please make us a sensor that'll do this? We want to develop a camera that'll do XYZ. And can you please fabricate something? Our engineers have come up with an idea of how we can make this work, but you guys need to figure out how to manufacture it and improve on that, or finish what we started in terms of engineering to make this happen. But we conceptually, our engineers thinks we can do this. So, uh, so it's not entirely up to Sony. It's really up to the market and people wanting to buy cameras, right? Being able to, or the companies being able to sell cameras and going to Sony, going to their manufacturers and saying, "Can you please make us more? Can you please make us a sensor that'll do that?" So I would say there's a little more to it than that. And how about the magic eraser feature from Google? I have no idea what that is. Sorry, I don't follow smartphones that much. Magic, I have no idea. I assume that's similar to the AI erase in Photoshop, but that would be cool in the camera, but I think unnecessary. It would be good if home system worries less about price and focus on capability. Cheap will be the coffin nail and it's lukewarm because MFT community will abandon it or give it bad press. And this goes a little bit back to what we were talking about earlier. Uh, do they just release another mediocre camera right away, or do they wait and release a more capable camera like you'd like to see, and imply that this is really the only way for them to survive? And that's a tough call. I don't know. I don't know if expediency will trump capability, right? Um, I just don't know, because if you look at, maybe look at Nikon as an example, they were way behind Canon as well, but they're way behind in the mirrorless market. They got the Z7, then they came out with the Z7 Mark II, relatively mediocre upgrade from the Z7, right? Very mediocre. What'd they do? Just add a dual card slot? That's it. Uh, yeah, improvements in autofocus and some other things they talked about, double the processing speed. I mean, I know they talked about a lot of things, but to the user going out on a photo job, it's like, yeah, I got an extra card slot, right? I'm not going to get better pictures, maybe slightly more images in focus, but yeah. Uh, and I would say that did hurt them because it was expediency over capability. However, when they came out with the Z9, extremely capable camera, even with the compromise of being a big honking huge camera, which people are used to with Nikon anyway, so that wasn't as big of a deal like the EM1X was to OM systems. But that was an extremely capable camera with a lot of interesting new features, right? Like, no shutter, no mechanical shutter, but still having a flash sync speed, I think of 1/180th or 1/2, whatever. You can still use flash with it, unlike the Lumix S9. Uh, you know, it, that capability sort of brought Nikon back into the game, right? Pulled them out of the gutter of camera market share and pulled them back up. Uh, but we had to wait as users, right? As consumers, we had to wait quite a while to get the Z9, and now they came out with the Z8, and that's a stellar camera, very very capable. Not a leapfrog over the Z8. I'm sorry, the Z9, but I think it does have something that the Z9 doesn't have, or was it the other way around? They're basically the same camera, just different form factor, right? Just no grip. Which goes back to what I was saying about the earlier, just come out with the same camera, but just slightly different features and functions, but it's essentially the same. And that's what Nikon did, right? And has always done, as everyone has done. But OM Systems needs to get in the game faster and start doing that more. But I think your point here, Nikon is a good example of that, right? They need to be mid-level between OM5 and OM1. It can be rangefinder of SLR style body. The stack sensor in OM1 is very expensive sensor. New BSI sensor few more megapixels. That's true. It's true. I I that would be an interesting camera, but I still think we're still talking about an OM5 Mark II. I don't think they can have like an OM, what would it be? Like an OM3, right? I mean that's their Olympus is not ready, or OM system not ready for an OM5, OM3, OM1. Not right now. Down the line, I think this is a great idea. I don't think they can do it now. Like within the next 2 to 3 years, I don't think they can do that. But I think down the line, that would be awesome. Like 5 to 10 years, we have OM1, OM3, OM5, OM7, OM10, just like Sony, 6100, 6300, 6400, 60. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if they can get to that point, right? But I don't think we're going to get that in the near term. I'm doing well, Darko. Thank you. I think this is really, really. My chat jumped way up. Yeah, sorry, my chat. Uh, Give me a second to catch up. Okay, it was somewhere in here. Okay. Linda says, I don't care about any video stuff. Yeah, I mean, for my photography, I try to record video when I go out into the field, but that's only because I have a YouTube channel, and YouTube is very video centric, right? But 99 times out of 100, I forget to record video when I'm out in the field, even though I should. Uh, Imagine if I didn't have a YouTube channel, I wouldn't think about video at all. It would not be on the radar. If I want to do video, I'll probably just use my phone, right? I could care less if the camera had video. But trust me, the crap that Nikon got with the Nikon DF not having video, nobody's going to make that mistake again. Gray Van Zena says, camera like the DF with zero video would be fine by me. I have plenty of other video. Yeah, yeah, our cell phones do great video. I mean, just for starters. If it's a pen camera, hopefully a Pen-F2 or an EP7, please sell it in North America. EP7 not being sold in North America was not cool. Yeah, not cool, man. We should have an EP7 here in the USA. Definitely not cool. And this was something I think came up earlier was EP7 with a viewfinder. So they can get rid of the pen line that doesn't have viewfinders. But I don't know. People keep saying there's a market for cameras without a viewfinder. Sony certainly thinks so with their ZV-1s. Uh, but I think OM systems, that would be weird for an OM system camera not to have an EVF. So make a pen line that has an EVF. So you have an EP7 Mark II with an EVF and all the other upgrades we talked about, and Olympus Pen-F, like a high-end, right? Rangefinder style camera. So we'll have a rangefinder style lineup, EP7 Pen-F series. What would that be akin to in Fuji? That would be XT X Pro 1 and XT 100. I'm sorry, X100 and X Pro. I mean, I know the X100 is fixed lens, but yeah, you have X100 and X Pro. So OM system has EP series and pen series. So get rid of the pen name, just call it an EP7 and then have a pen, the Pen-F series. You don't even have to stick with Pen-F. You could just say pen series and then have the Pen-F, the Pen G, Pen H, Pen X, whatever, right? Or pen, whatever. I'm not good with naming, but I think a two body, basically a two-body rangefinder system, one sort of more budget friendly and one high end or boutique, right? Boutique, like Leica level type camera. That would be awesome. I'm okay if the Pen costs $2,000. I'll buy it if it has all those features. We'll see. We'll see when the time comes. It's easy to talk smack when, the camera doesn't exist, right? But when you have to put your hard-earned money out, we'll see. We'll see. And metal bodies for the win. I'm still in love with my quality of my EM10. My OM5 feels way below its level in terms of build quality. I agree 100%. Because like I said, in practice, the plastic bodies work, right? With the exception of the tripod mount breaking, which, you can break metal ones too, but definitely plastic is not as rigid as not as durable as the metal. Definitely have to go a little bit more premium feel. Like Fuji did not make that mistake with the XT series, right? They got the XT30, XT50, XT, all the XT double digit series. Always metal, always a metal body. They didn't go plastic. And Clint says, my son's going to DC. We spent a day on dry run at our state capitol with the Sony RX100 III. I recently acquired LX10 and GM1. We had a fantastic time. Nice. LX10, man, I was on the fence about that. I ended up going with the LX100, but I was close to getting an LX10. That's an awesome little camera. RX100 Mark III, no problems there. Very good camera. I was shopping the RX100 Mark V because I like the lens better on that than the ones after that. And of course the GM1, right? Full on micro four thirds. If they crammed the OM1 Mark I into the OM5 Mark II in terms of features, it would probably achieve the cult status of the EM1 5 Mark II series had achieved at its time. I agree 100%, right? They need to get back to that it is inexcusable to me that the OM5, or I'm sorry, the EM5 Mark III, when it came out, you could not use it for tethering, right? You couldn't use the tethering app. I forget what it's called. I mean, I never used the app, okay? And that's probably why they didn't put it in because nobody uses it. But you cannot release a camera at that price point that cannot tether, right? Like why strip that feature away from the M5 Mark II used to be able to do that? That's a big one, you know? Ah, all the JPEG stuff on a Pen-F is what I love about it. No other camera does it all in such an easy way. I agree, 100%. It's just the front dial needs to be reprogrammable. That's my only complaint. I'm not complaining about all of the JPEG-centric features. Those are wonderful. If I gave that vibe off, that was not my intent. My intent was that I was a little upset you couldn't reprogram that front dial because people buying the camera may not initially appreciate the JPEG functionality of that camera. They're like, "You got a freaking dial here I'm never going to use," and then they reprogram it. Then down the line they say, "Actually, this dial is pretty handy," for the JPEG features. The Pen-F as you described, yes, thumbs up, and it would allow OM to broaden their appeal from just wildlife focuses somewhat, though you could still use it for some. Yep, you could. I have no idea what Lego B&O and the Mermaid is. Introduction of the 24 megapixel phase detect sensor in the Pen-F 2 with weather sealing and the latest autofocus algo would be real refresh. Yeah, the viewfinder could be updated, but would prefer tiltable viewfinder. You mean the viewfinder itself, the EVF, or are you talking about the back screen? If you're talking about the EVF being tiltable up, that would be interesting. That's kind of a Lumix thing, but I think they'd have to compromise. Uh, I think there'd definitely be a compromise. Well, it doesn't have to be. They can make a tiltable EVF that feels like a frickin' tank. But if I feel like if they did do that, it would compromise kind of the feel of the camera being built like a solid block of aluminum, like everybody was saying when it came out. And it looks like Manfrotto is releasing a high-end battery for OM1 with higher capacity and additional sealing and shock resistance. Interesting. See, battery technology, man, it's always moving. Oh, yeah, that reminds me. My battery's still stuck in my G7. I know. I don't know who asked me. Somebody was asking me how to get a stuck battery out of a camera, and I was saying like, have the battery door open and see if you can just gently tap the camera a little bit. The battery might come out just a tiny bit, and then use a pair of tweezers and pull it out. Or you can take duct tape and stick it onto the battery and try and pull it out that way. Uh, but yeah, it's not fun when you get a battery stuck in the camera. But those methods have worked for me before. Is just tapping the camera, then using tweezers to pull it out. Take the memory card out if it's in the same slot, of course, so you get a little more flexibility. Because if the memory card's in there, you're increasing the rigidity of the space. So take the memory card out and tap tap a little bit, gently. I mean, you could. I guarantee if you banged it on a table like you're nailing in a something like a hammer, you'll get the battery out, but then you'll bust the camera, right? The GX7, yeah, nice little camera. I love the GX7. Right now, it's still reasonably priced. It's a little high, but it's not crazy high like the GX9. GX9 is ridiculous. But GX7 is priced a little high, but about right. And it's very, very capable camera. The only thing people didn't like really was the EVF, and I don't have a problem with that. I've been using it on my LX100, sort of that, LCD style EVF, and I'm not sensitive to it. I'm fine with it. I didn't even know that there was a problem with the EVF until I started hearing about it. So I tried to force it to make it do that. The thing I found is if I bump the reframe rate to 60 frames per second, the effect is even mitigated even more. So if I know the LX100 Mark II has that where you can change the refresh rate of the EVF to 60 frames per second, it's worth it, particularly if you're sensitive to that effect. And a stripped down camera that is only for stills would be nice. No jacks, special. That's a film camera then. Just kidding. It just takes photos and excels at that. Let camera conspiracies cry to no video, just SAF and CAF. Like I said, I think they could get to that point. They're not there now. Because isn't that what the RX100 is basically? Sucky video. It's not no video, but it's sucky video. But really decent stills. It's really a decent stills camera, the Canon R100, for like next to nothing. I'm thinking about buying the camera to replace my EM10 Mark II because this is my EM10 Mark II. It's working now. Oh, it's crooked. It's working now, but why is it zoomed in so much? Uh, Look, if I try to focus on something, the sensor goes purple. And sometimes when I turn the camera on, I got these like digital jagged lines, and sometimes I can't make out at all what's on the screen. It's totally jacked up. It looks like the sensor's got a crack in it. That's what it looks like. It's like it's got cracks in. I know it doesn't have cracks in it because I've been using the EM10 Mark II for my live streams for the last several years. So I think it's on its last legs. Um, Anyhow, I don't know why I'm talking about that camera. Oh, because I was not thinking about replacing it with an R100. Because I need to replace my B cam. I'm going to start using my B cam more to show stuff off, right? I need a little different angle to show things, uh, and to go walk around the room or do whatever. I like to get a little more dynamic, get off my feet. I'm starting. Anyhow, yeah, this is my B cam. I've always had this, and the B cam I use it for my tutorials. I haven't done tutorials in a while, but I use this B cam for my tutorials. So when you see those overhead videos of me going through the menus and things, all of that stuff is B cam. And this EM10 is starting to die on me. and I need to replace it. And I want to replace it with another EM10, honestly. But they want $400 for another EM10. And I'm like, no freaking way. I'm not buying like an 8-year-old camera for $400. I'll just go buy the R100, brand new with warranty, with a kit lens, right? $300 or $400, and it's 400 with a kit lens. I can get an R100 with a kit lens for $400, or I can buy an old beat up EM10 Mark II for $400. What would you do? It's crazy, and they want too much for the EM10 Mark IV. And the EM10 Mark IV, you can't get clean HDMI out, which is it's freaking ridiculous. How can you not have clean HDMI out on a modern digital camera? They got rid of it on the EM10 Mark III, then the EM10 Mark IV. No clean HDMI. It's stupid, and they want too much money for it. For me, with respect to using it as a B cam, it's a great camera if you're going to use it for photography, but I need a B cam, and I don't want to spend $700 or $500. I want to spend like 300, honestly. Uh, so I was thinking about getting the G100 because I can get that for about $300. So that's still on my short list. Because if I get a G100, and the G100, what is that exactly? It's basically the LX100 Mark II with interchangeable lens. That's what a G100 is. So the G100 didn't require very much marketing at all, or engineering. All they did was take the LX100 Mark II and make an interchangeable lens. Then they moved the EVF from here to here. And then later they came out with the G100D and changed the EVF to be an OLED instead of the LCD panel. So, that's all they do is they just rearrange the parts, add, subtract, move things around. It's the same freaking camera. All these companies, all of them. The OMXZ, small fast lens, good AF, basically a better LX100 with better color. Yeah. Color science on the LX100 is a little yeah, it's not I'm not I'm not enjoying them quite as much as I do my Olympus colors. But what I have to do is when I take a picture, I haven't shot with it enough to get a feel for the color science, but when I take a picture, I can I don't know how to say this, but I will have a better feel for what the picture is going to look like in the end so that I can better express my vision of what that scene was, if that makes any sense. I mean, we are really splitting hairs on color science because I can fix it in post because I created a preset that pretty much fixes it, but wasn't BEM10 the best-selling camera in Japan? Would be weird if they didn't continue it. I don't know. I think that does ring a bell. I thought it was the Pen series that were the best-selling Olympus cameras, but it might have been the EM10. And releasing, like you were saying, releasing something before Christmas would be nice. Stuffing stalker, at the very least. OM1 used refurbished bodies have broken below the $1,000 mark this week, and OM System is selling OM bodies for around $13.99 new. Reminds me of when the OMX fell off the map. Yeah. And you're right. Oh wow, I'm way behind on chat. If we're going back to the XT100 and 200, yeah. But thank you for confirming that. Low-end cameras make money once sold in large quantity, which was the case 10 years ago. Canon and Nikon got a lot of funds this way. Today, it's difficult to sell them in the millions. That's a good point. That's a good point. So there's just not enough volume in the market anymore. Not a big enough market to make money on compact camera or entry level. That makes sense. I meant the M1X above. Oh, yeah, I understand. I think that's what I said, right? I think I interpreted whatever you were saying correctly. But yeah, EM1X. You said OM1X, but you meant EM1X. Okay, I got it. Oops, it was a Canon T100. Not bad at all. They're selling the Canon T100. It's a fine camera. I called it a piece of crap when we were looking at it. It is a piece of crap compared to, say, the Canon R100, in my opinion. Because the R100 is about the same price and better in every freaking way, other than lens selection, right? Largest cost in R&D and NPI. That is several $1 million. So if you need to cover that cost with sales later, bare production cost of some EM10 Mark IV might be around $100. Anything above that is profit. That might be true. I believe you. I could see them, like you said, bare production, $100 to produce per camera. That makes sense to me. If they're selling the camera for 700, they need to be able to produce those at about $100 a pop, right? Because they got to redistribute those. There's a lot of overhead after it's been made, right? The packaging, the delivery, yada yada. Also storage costs, because it's not like they can't just put it on the shelf and let it sit there. Letting it sit there costs money because they're paying for that space. If not on a mortgage, right? Like on a loan, they're paying it in taxes. So there's always a cost to just storing things on the shelf on top of that. But I'm going into the weeds here. Oh, you ended up buying one. That's cool. It's a cool little camera. Yeah. One thing I noticed though, and I forgot about this, and I don't know if this is a problem, but I can't see the focus point in the EVF. It's not in the optical viewfinder. I have to look at the focus point on the back of the screen, like where the position is, because it only has like 9 points. But I don't know which point the focus point is on when I'm looking through the OVF. OM1 processor and AI features, but geared for indoor, outdoor, street, and family photos, and allows budding photographers to grow. Also at HEIF format, including in-body panel and shoot-to-share ability. Okay, so we're talking about cell phone type features in a, legit camera. Those sound like easy things to add, to be honest. My LX100 has a panel feature. I've never used it, but it has a panel feature. So I know that they can do it easily. And older Olympus, my frickin' thingamajig compact camera from Olympus does panos. Again, I've never used it, but it can do it. I'll have to try that one day. I mean, I'm not going to do a whole video on a panel from a compact camera, but you guys should be watching my community page. This bookmark my community page here on YouTube. I'm always posting stuff like I did a review of this 10-stop ND filter. It's like $3. And there's a sample image. Of course, none of the images are showing. Why? Maybe because I'm streaming. Let me refresh. Oh, there it is. Okay, just need to load. But yeah, I did a little mini review of this ND filter. So I looked at detail, I looked at flaring direct light, flaring indirect light. This is about 1,000% crop, and then I looked at color. Because these are the kind of compromises that ND filters, cheap filters have, it's basically color and flaring. But this really didn't have any of that, and it's $3. Let's see if it's still on sale. Yeah, $2.99. So, yeah, this guy. I got mine in. I bought one. I got mine in, and then I did a quick test on, and I posted it to my community page. And I do that a lot. quick reviews, comparisons, things that I don't want to just sit down and make a whole video. To make like a 5 or 10-minute video takes me all freaking day. Just to edit, okay? But to do a post like that where I don't have to jibber jabber and come up with a script, I can do those like within the hour, and it's useful. I just go through that, and then I post, of course, my deals with my affiliate links, so I can make a couple bucks. I'm gonna make like 5 cents if somebody buys that filter. Okay, I'm not making money on it, so to speak. Now if you buy something else while you're on Amazon, like an OM1 Mark One for 13, I'll make some money on that. But I'm not making money on a $3 filter. And I did a whole review on this thing because somebody said, those cheap filters, they always have problems. I said, well, when I get mine in, let's find out, right? So anyway, this case is worth well, not really. But now I got a nice little filter case that I'm gonna just probably throw away. And then I got the box, which I'm gonna recycle. Maybe I can recycle this too. Some plastics you can't recycle. I mean, I don't I would like to put let's not talk about recycling. That's like talking politics. You don't get anywhere with it, to be honest. Um, OM1 will surprise us all with a brand new OM1 XA, a digital XA. Oh, wow. Wow, that's the TG7 basically. Um, and I almost missed one here. Why one of them? I would like to see OM10 and a Pen-F too. Yeah. Why not, right? Just give us everything. Give us everything. Let's walk into a camera store and just have this is the OM systems section. And you walk in and there's a row on this side and a row on this side, all cameras. Like in the Matrix, when uh, Neo said, "I need a weapon," and he walks into this room and these two racks of weapons just come flying by him, and all this wind blowing his hair. It's so cool. We need to do that, right? OM systems, man. I'm gonna walk in. I say, "I need a camera," and the guy pushes a button. And two giant racks of cameras come out. It says, "Take your pick." That'd be freaking awesome. Says, Rob, if you want to try something very different, I suggest you convert. Oh my God, see, my chat jumped all the way back up again. All the way back to when I used to get super chats. Haven't seen any lately, but that's I'm just kidding. Okay, there's a comment here about an S9 I totally missed. Clint says, the biggest fear is that Panasonic is going to introduce an MFT camera with the S9 body design like the G9 II and S5 II body match. Okay, I get that. I don't think I would buy it without the EVF. I fear it's going to introduce an MFT camera. Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, if they put a micro four thirds sensor in S9 body, they do have the room for an EVF. Yeah, I don't. It would be interesting to see if they do that. But yeah, I'm not going to buy a camera without an EVF. Unless it's something tiny like a GM1 or GX1. I love the GX1. I used to be able to, you could buy those for like $50 at one time. Now they want $200. So stupid. I ain't paying $200 for a camera that's about to die. Looks brand new, but it doesn't work. That's what a GX1 is. Let's see. And they should release something in time for, okay, so we did that. Peter says, I wonder if camera manufacturers monitor site such. They do, actually. They do. I don't know if they watch the whole thing, but let's say they have 1,000 people, right? Let's say OM system is probably the only one that cares, right, about my streams, if they care at all. But let's say they have couple thousand people and a dozen of them are watching my channel casually. One of them might pick up on this stream, and one thing leads to another, word of mouth, things get around, and next thing you know, we have a Pen-F2 by Christmas. Could happen. Let's see if I can find where I left off. And Linda says, I feel it doesn't matter for reviewers and YouTubers what kind of camera OM system bring out. Most of them are on 35 millimeter full frame. Well, I guarantee Chris and Jordan will do it, right? Um, and then of course, both Emily's, if it's Panasonic, one Emily. If it's OM Systems, probably both Emily's. And Grant will do something. And if Peter and Maddie can get access to it, they'll probably do something. Because remember, when the OM5 came out, Peter was out, but he did review the OM5, I believe, right? Or was it the OM1? I think it was OM5. So Peter will do something. Robin definitely. Me, I'll probably just jibber jabber in a stream about it because I can't actually buy the camera unless it's unless I'm not gonna like the OM1 Mark II. I didn't buy it, right? The OM5, I didn't buy it because the cameras I have now are sufficient as far as my OM systems go for my needs. But anyhow, but I think there'll be enough YouTubers that will review it. Fro's not going to do it. Tony and Chelsea might. I would do 80-20, like 80% they probably won't, 20% they probably will do something substantial. Most likely it'll be like a news item, sidebar for them. Because I don't think they talked about the OM1 Mark II or the OM1 at all, right? And those were pretty substantial cameras, other than like a news item. And whatever, I'll be here. I'll talk about it. If I'm the only one that talks about it, so be it. But I will. I'll talk about any camera they release. Pen-F 2 with licensed Kodak film simulations. Excuse me. And the Olympus Kodak CCD E300 simulation. Interesting. What they could do. Uh-oh. Remember when I said at the beginning of stream, like I was kind of on this high, but I was on my way down? Versus most streams, I'm usually kind of up and then down, right? Most streams, I'm usually so laid back. It's amazing anybody sticks around as long as you do. How long have I been on? Holy crap! 2.5 hours. Sound is distorted. Not sure why. I'm sorry about that. I got everything unplugged correctly, I think. It's the best I can do for now. I'll do something about the sound. I don't know what to do. Maybe try a different microphone. And let's see, a lot going on here. OM5 is 1.8K in the US, so any potential Pen-F2 would rather be 2.5K range. I thought the OM5 was selling for like on sale right now for 1100. But anyway, it seems, but that means sales problems. They just should merge EP7 and Pen-F lines into one. OMP1 and EVF dust. if they have no other choice, yeah, just make the Pen-F, right? When you say merge the EP7 and Pen-F, you're basically talking about making a Pen-F Mark II, uh, and getting rid of the EP7, because EVF means Pen-F. I would hope that they could do both. It'd be nice if they could do both, but they just don't have the resources, I don't think, to do both. And the G100 is stills camera. It's a great stills cam and a mediocre vlogger. Yep, 100% with you on that. And thanks for the tips, Rob. Oh, you're welcome. As always, I'm always happy to help best I can. And Pucho Web Solutions. Hello from New York City. What do you think about buying a camera from eBay sellers shipping directly from Japan? It seems to be many of them recently. Thank you for your good. Oh yeah, definitely. I buy from Japan. I just bought a lens yesterday, actually. Let me see if I can find it. Um, where the heck is my eBay link? So purchases, here we go. I just bought this lens here. This is from Nobi's camera, 100% positive. And I already got the tracking number, and uh, I should get it in a couple days. So what I look for basically is the feedback. They need to have, at least 99%, maybe 98, but 99% and hundreds of feedback, hundreds, at least hundreds. I like to see thousands, but usually when I'm trying to find a good deal, the ones with a little bit less feedback give you a better deal than the ones that have thousands, of feedback and 100% or 99%. The key thing to look for, really, if you want to take the least risk possible when buying from overseas or buying from anyone on eBay, is you want to make sure that it says that they are a trusted seller. Let me see if I can find an example. Of course not. How can there be no examples? Let me look for something more specific. What's a popular lens? I don't know. Uh, like a 15 millimeter f1.7. Okay, so this is what I look for. Top rated plus, 1,600 reviews, 100% feedback. You're you're not going to have any problems with this. Okay, this guy, a little bit risky at 98%, and not hundred. There's hundreds of reviews here. Tough call. But look at the price. Not much difference. So I ain't taking a risk. If he was shipping this lens for $329 and free shipping, then I might consider this. But this guy here, no problems, right? Another top rated plus, 99.8%, 339. Oh, and they're local to me. Interesting. I gotta save that one. Because this is a brand new lens with free shipping. 13 people watching. I need to buy this lens. 300 or best offer. Zero feedback. No frickin' way am I buying this. Top rated plus, 99.6. What's the condition? Good, refurbish. That's not a bad deal either. But anyway, uh, that top rated plus status is a big deal. They have to achieve like the near 100%, like 99. I forget what the metrics are exactly, but they have to achieve a certain number of percentage and votes or reviews, positive reviews, in addition to offer fast free shipping, free returns, and they have to offer I think those are the key things: free returns, free shipping, and 99% feedback, whatever that number is, and no complaints, right? No like unresolved complaints, in other words. So if a buyer complains to eBay, goes around them and complains directly to eBay, uh, you can't have any of that to get this top rated plus. So that tells me that this vendor, if there was a problem, because everybody's going to have problems, right? I don't care who you buy from, they're going to make a mistake. Uh, they resolved it one way or another. It got resolved, right? You can't say that about people that don't have the top rated plus uh, status or symbol, okay? They they may have a very high feedback rating, like 99+%, but if they don't have the top rated status, they're missing one of the other qualifications. Either they have some negative feedback that got unresolved through eBay, or they lost, right? Or two, they don't offer free returns, or they don't offer free shipping, something, right? Fast and free shipping. You have to ship like within 24 hours of the order. That's another thing that qualifies for that top rated status. But more importantly than all of that, I mean, those are important, is if the seller loses their top rated status, they don't want to do that. If they lose their top rated status, they lose their preferred uh, pricing structure. So, say for example, they sell something on eBay and eBay charges 10%. But if you get a top rated status, eBay is only going to charge 5%, right? Like half as much. I'm just making these numbers up, but this is the principle behind my statement here. um, you're talking big money to a top rated seller, going from 5% to 10%. It could make it unviable to sell on eBay if they have to pay 10% instead of 5%, and it would wipe them off of eBay altogether. Or they'd have to raise their prices to a point that they're not competitive anymore, and they're not going to be able to offer free shipping, free returns, 24-hour shipping, window, all of that stuff. It's going to compromise them in a big way. So if there is a problem with that seller, a top-rated seller, you better believe they're going to resolve the issue one way or the other, because they're not talking about just your deal. They're talking about every single deal they have listed on eBay could be affected by your problem, right? It's one of those like domino things. One domino falls, man, everything else goes down. So never worry about buying from a top rated seller. And if anybody's had experience with a top rated seller and had a problem, let me know. I seriously doubt, I'm not putting money on it, but if I had money, I would put some money on it. I would put money on it if I had any, that no one's ever had an unresolved issue with a top rated seller on eBay. Okay? You pay a few bucks more a lot of times. And that's the other thing, is sometimes they can offer a competitive price because they're paying less commission to eBay. So you're getting better service, better guarantee, all of that good stuff. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about buying on eBay if they're top rated plus. I mean, buying anything is always a risk, right? No matter who you buy from. I could buy something from Best Buy and have a problem, but they have a liberal return policy. And eBay backs up everything you buy. Plus, you have your own credit card protection if you use a credit card. There's all kinds of layers of protection as a buyer. But there's a huge incentive to top rated sellers to not F it up. Okay? Just saying. Huge incentive for them not to mess that up. Okay. So that's what I think. And I took a little bit of a risk ordering from a non-top rated seller when I ordered that lens. However, they were about $50 to $70 cheaper. So when we're talking, what did I pay? $150 for that lens? I am paying $200 for that lens. So I'll pay $150 from a seller that's got 99+% feedback. I'll take that risk to save, 25%. But if we're talking like 10% or less price difference, I'm going to be a little more picky about who's selling it to me. Hi, is there a camera under the cost of $500? Brand new is just, as far as I know, is the Canon G100. Did I say that right? Canon R100. Canon R100 with a lens. That's probably the best camera you can buy under $500 right now, in my opinion. K10D shows a red light in a selected AF point and less damage, but the camera is really one of the worst Pentax cameras you can buy. Just get a K5 or at least a K20D. Both are old but much better. I'll probably go all the way to K70 if I do. K5 was a nice camera though, but yeah. So the little red dot in my OVF is probably dead, unless there's something in the menu to deactivate it. But I don't think so. I'll have to look at it more closely next time. But I was having a heck of a time taking a picture of Ellie with that camera because I didn't have the red dot get pictures. I use clip-in filters with my full spectrum converter OM5 Mark II. Best of both worlds. Interesting. So I think with a what he's talking about, these are filters that you put right on top of the sensor. They don't touch the sensor. They just kind of clip in around the framing of the sensor. And so you removed all of the filters off to the sensor so that basically the visible light filters. You took off the infrared filter, the UV filter, all the filters that they put on top of a camera sensor to reject anything that's not visible light, basically. So you can see everything. So all of the light that comes in that the sensor is able to is sensitive to, because full spectrum just means you remove the filters. It doesn't mean the camera can see every spectrum of light, but it's going to see a lot of it. Certainly much more than our eyes can. And then you can put any filter, you can put the filters back in if you want via these little clip-in things. So I don't know if it's possible, but I would think in theory, if not in practice already, you can actually make it back to a regular visible light camera with no compromise, right, in quality. So that's definitely a really cool way to to make the camera more versatile, right? You can switch to infrared, or you can switch to infrared because you use an IR. I don't do it, so I might get the workflow mixed up, but I get where you're coming from. Never heard of the R100. Is that APS-C? Yeah, it's a little APS-C camera. So let me qualify my answer here. There's a lot of cameras under $500 that are complete crap. But if you get the R100, you're going to get a decent camera for about $400 on sale right now. You'll get your $400 worth, in my opinion. You can spend $400 on other cameras, but they're crap. I think the R100 is the best bang for the buck for an interchangeable lens camera. So I'm sorry, I should have qualified that answer a little more. Have to run. Thanks again. Oh, thanks for coming in, Gordon. And I should probably run too. It's freaking 4 o'clock. I'm doing like a 3-hour stream. After the Canon M system, I kind of don't trust the APS. Yeah, I had an M50 for many years, never used it. I sold it in like new condition. It was like mint. Um, last year, I think. OM5 is normally 12K in the US website, not 18. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was closer to 12 than 18, unless you add the kit lens. And it would be good if OM system worries less about price. Oh, my freaking chat jumped way up again. I don't get it. I keep getting lost here. So there's that question. Clip-in filters. M systems still love their vids. OM5, yeah, OM5. I thought the LX100 Mark II had IBIS, but the G100G does not. No, the LX100 Mark II, it has lens stabilization, not sensor stabilization. So it's lens only. That's why I was saying the G100 is basically an LX100. They just moved the EVF on top. But everything else is identical, pretty much, and added the flippy screen, Anyway, we've had that conversation like probably 10 times already today. I keep repeating myself, right? I don't mean to. I don't mean to. I'm not doing it to be mean or whatever. I'm just saying I can't remember what I talked about. It's been so long. There's a long stream. Dan Oviedo says the brand new OM5 and a 12 to 40 f4 and a 45 1A plus 2 extra original batteries for €1,549. I think even EU OM system. Wow. I want that 12 to 45 f4 so bad. If you guys were looking at my eBay page, I have it in my wish list or whatever they call it, watch list. Huh. But I want the 300. I want the 15 millimeter f1.7 just as much. But I can't really afford to spend on both. I mean, I could, but then that would make me short because I have to buy some heating oil. I don't, I don't know. Anyway, I could, and then I have to dip into. Technically, well, I've already maxed out my credit cards, but I'd have to put it on credit if I. Got me thinking though, because by not paying off a credit card when I have cash, it's basically using your credit, right? So, blah 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 blah. We all got problems. Why should I tell you mine? Unless you ask me. If somebody asks me what my problem is, I'll tell you. Okay, my chat just jumped again. I'm all the way back up to says here the cheap cameras probably just collect dust in today's economy, but best starter cameras are probably used cameras. I traded an EPL1 for an OM1 Mark II. OM system gave 3. Bang, man. That's how they do it, man. That's how they need to do it with the customer loyalty thing. If you have an OM system or Olympus camera, they should give you some freaking money extra for that as a thank you for being an OM system customer. They should do that, you know? I mean, if somebody with a Canon walks in there and they give the same money as somebody that walks in with an EPL1, I would be a little pissed as an OM system customer because I'm legacy, man. I've been loyal. How about a little loyalty reward? You don't have to send me money, but if you want to give me a little extra when I trade in to upgrade, that's all we want. Just some recognition. Just some recognition that we are OM system customers, loyal customers, and want to invest in the system, want you to continue doing more and we'll be there for you, right? You don't always have to be the best, but we know you're trying your best and we'll be there for you. And when we are, give us a little extra, some recognition. Doesn't have to be $300 difference, like $50 more. Say, if you trade in a Canon, we'll give you $300. If you trade in any, OM system camera, we'll give you $50 more than we would a Canon person. Something like that. That's what I think. Because trust me, when I get my emails from Mazda, because I've had my car for 8 years now, I guess, they keep sending me customer loyalty things, extra $500 if you own a Mazda. So that keeps me from really looking at. I want to get a Toyota. I want to buy a Highlander. Can't afford it, but I want to buy a Highlander eventually. But you know, if I can get an extra $500 to go buy a Mazda CX-90 or something instead, that would be nice. I don't know. Anyway, we're easy. People are easy. You don't have to do a lot to show your appreciation, right? Just a little. $500 is nothing in the car world. They'll probably just jack the price up by $500, and it makes no difference to them. But to us, we don't want to be swindled, but at the same time, just some recognition to say, hey, thanks for being there with us. I know everybody's leaving. I guess it's time to go. Uh, and my chat jumped way up. Let me just go to the bottom, work my way up. Commercialized BS. This is easier. Going to the bottom and working my way up. So got to get closed on, but when it comes to reviews, I trust yours and many other 4/3 channels. When it comes to Tony and Hedda, it's all crap. They hype big name cameras like Sona. Yeah. I watched the review on the Maddie. Oh my goodness. How are you, Maddie? Good to see you, buddy. Um, Video coming up soon. I just watched your S9 video, actually. I watched it yesterday. And then I watched I can't remember. I watched so many videos yesterday instead of going out and shooting. John Steiner, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That is awesome. And let's see. Wow, lots of Maddie stuff here. Maddie, okay, here he is. Hi, everyone. I finally embrace and support photography. It's the photos that matter, not the camera. Feel free to use any camera that works for you. I just bought 2 new MFT lenses, by the way. Oh, cool. I'm curious to see what you got too. I finally bought the 25 1.4 and I love it. Man, that is I love that lens. I did I take it with me today or is it up here? Yeah. I didn't take the OM1 out with me today, but I love this lens. And I want to get the 15 millimeter. Panasonic, man, they make some great lenses. And it is so awesome to see you back in the Lumix system. The L mount system is so good. I don't know if you've watched my streams before at the moment where I talked about how good the L mount glass is, the 51.8, the 35, the 85, that 1.8 series, the S series of lenses are stellar. And I want the S1R so bad. I know it's a big honking tank camera, but I used to have the S1R and I just didn't take it out, so I got rid of it. And it was the biggest regret of my life was getting rid of the S1R. Ugh, and getting rid of all my L mount glass, which I only had 2. I had the 50, I had the 20 to 60. That's all I needed were those 2 for that camera system. So I'm not going to do sports action, so I don't really need a telephoto. Uh, I wasn't going to take it out on any job, so I don't need a 70 to 200. So yeah, the 50, a 35 and a 50 would have been good enough. It's good enough for that for an S1R, in my opinion. And the lenses are stellar. I cannot believe that the image quality, when I look at the images, the pictures I used to take with that camera, I just so regret getting rid of it. And that's saying a lot because I have an A7R5 sitting somewhere, this guy. I don't want to say I hate this camera. I just don't love it, you know? Anyway, good to see you, Batty. And X-Men says the K70 is low end with aperture Solon. Oh wow. Okay. The K5, K5 II rest in masochism. I don't know what that word means. Masochism. Maybe KP if you like small buffer, retro styling enough. Oh, KP is a good idea. That's true. So we'll avoid the K70 and go KP. Appreciate that. You know what I'll do is I'll do a live stream when I'm shopping for Pentax, and I can ask for advice from the audience what's the best one to get and what my budget is. We'll see. We'll see. I think the KP is a little pricey though, right? Pentax KP. So, oh, here's a silver one for 700 in mint. Yeah, this is the one with the weirdo grip. Still, that's a handsome camera though, more or less. Hmm. Okay. Bob O'Neill. Thanks for the stream, especially eBay advice. Gotta go. Okay, Bob, thanks for being here. If you're watching this later, I really appreciate it. And ugh, the Northers would just dunk on it. Maybe not. I think they would be fair. I mean, it's one thing to dump on a camera like Fro did. I totally respect Frono's photo and his review of the M1X. Uh, I have no, I think he did a great job actually, even though he was dumping on it left and right. But I still think he did a good job, okay? And he was very fair. They were just his opinion. And he still holds to that like thing about he wants maximum image quality all the time. Why settle for less is the way he goes. So from that perspective, I can understand him dumping on any system. Doesn't have to be Micro Four Thirds, but any system that doesn't meet this level of quality that he expects. And that's fine. But that's because I've been watching him for years and years and years, so I have a pretty good feel for how he's going to react, or when he does react to something, I can take it with a grain of salt because I know where he's coming from. I understand him a little better. But somebody casually coming in and seeing a Frono's video, and like maybe they not really that familiar with him, that's a problem, right? For OM systems, they're not gonna they're not going to they're not gonna like that. Like they didn't like it when he dumped on the M1X. So Tony and Chelsea, I think, would do a fair review, but I feel like they need to do it in this in the context of Micro Four Thirds, right? And by that I mean people would buy that camera because of the overall system being smaller, lighter, more compact. But they rarely do that. They look at it's hard for me to let me not just speculate what they're going to do or not do, or judge them before they actually make the video. I I shouldn't do that. But I'll just say I think they would be fair. But again, that's from the perspective that I've been watching them for years and years. So I kind of get a feel for where they're coming from and what they're going to say about a system. And I'm a little bit jaded by it, I guess. Okay. So there's that. And I think I'll go back to the bottom, work my way up. Wayne, late to the party. I know. I'm just about to head out. I'm not making a 3-hour stream. 2 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds. That's the length of this stream today. The K3 Mark One. That's too much money. I'd rather get a D8, D810, a Nikon D810. If I'm going to go with a K3, I'm sorry, which one did you say? The K1, right? Oh, the K3 Mark One. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the K1. I was thinking of the K1. K3 Mark One, maybe. Let me see. Because, yeah, I wasn't crazy about how the KP looked. Oh, much better. Pricing-wise, much better. So we can get an excellent one for 500 bucks. Top rated plus K3 Mark II. How about the Mark II? X Meta. What do you think about the Mark II? I like silver. I mean, I prefer black sometimes, but I need some more silver cameras. The R100 is 482 with lens in Germany. Good thing I'm broke. I was actually looking at an EM10 too in case I can't save the GX7, but that's quite old now. Yeah. I know the R100 is crazy, crazy cheap. I mean, it's priced accordingly, right? It's all plastic, no articulating screen. I mean, it's a ton of compromises, but it's 400 bucks with a lens, with a decent sensor, decent autofocus, right? It's compact. The R100 is priced really, really well. It's a really good little camera for the money. Oh, they added GPS in the Mark II. Interesting. How come you know so much about Pentax? You must be a Pentaxian. Oh, the SD reader failed. Yeah, that's kind of random. I don't know, unless it's a uh, what do they call them? Um, if it's a recurring problem with that series of cameras, I don't know. You sure are. That's cool. Uh, okay, we're almost up to 259.59, so I'm going to end it here. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you all again. I appreciate those of you that made it through the whole stream. That's amazing. You guys have the endurance of whatever has high endurance. The OM1 Mark II. I don't know. But I had a lot of fun today. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I will be back maybe tomorrow for a Labor Day sales stream where I can maybe make some affiliate money. But either way, thanks for being here. We'll see you again soon. And it was good to see you too, Maddie.